first step is always blocking your brows because, why not? I've always had dreams of the big city and whatnot. Always been interested in like theater and dressing up, playing with costumes and makeup and whatnot.
Hey guys, what's up? It's Evan Ross Katz. I'm senior style editor here at Mike.com. I love a legend, and I'm joined by one today, Aquaria.
Bonjour.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
We're delighted. So today we're going to be having you get into makeup, and then we're going to chat about your life and the many things that you have going on.
Yeah, what would I rather be doing on a Tuesday morning?
I mean, it's the only thing you should be doing.
Duh.
So if you want to go ahead and get started, to begin though, can you sort of talk about your entry into this process?
Well, the first step is always blocking your brows because, why not? So the easiest way to do that is just to wipe them off. Because I'm a hairless little rodent. So that was easy. You could be wasting 30 minutes gluing them down with, school supplies, but you could also waste 3 seconds doing it. So that's much easier. And then because we know we all have gross ass skin, because we know you do, you want to throw a little primer on so you don't look like disgusting.
Can you tell me a little bit about where you grew up?
I grew up in Westchester, Pennsylvania, which is a suburb on the not the outskirts, but like 30, 40 minutes outside of Philadelphia. Yeah, it's not New York, so I didn't really care for it. I've always had dreams of the big city.
So when did you first see a drag queen?
Online, I'm sure I saw like RuPaul or Lady Bunny or something. Like I remember when I was in like 7th grade, I started watching like all these makeup videos and stuff on YouTube back before like this current era of YouTube. There was some like makeup artists on YouTube who would do drag. So that was probably my first drag queen experience.
Do you recall sort of the feeling that you had when you first had the idea that maybe you wanted to do that to your own face?
For me, I'd always been interested in like theater and dressing up and, just playing with costumes and makeup and whatnot. When I was little, I was always into like face painting and whatnot. Turned me into a tiger, turned me into like a Power Ranger. I didn't care. I just like wanted to be like beat by some Halloween craft store products. I would watch Katz, the movie, and I would make my mom like put me in whatever version of a costume I thought was appropriate for like each of the characters, and I would have to like get my tail tied to like the perfect length of like whichever cat I was going to be that day or whatever. I was like a psycho. Yeah, I think that's like where I started getting into theater and makeup and costumes, and clearly it's only stayed pretty much on that same level of talent and style.
So was there like a moment when Aquaria was born, or did she sort of manifest herself over time?
I think it was an over time type of thing. I am currently and was in the past and still am growing up in this internet generation. Everything just kind of like happened online, and I didn't really realize I was getting into makeup or getting into enjoying drag. It was just like me experiencing and like experimenting with my queerness and whatnot.
How much would you say like that your queerness is connected to your drag? Or just even being in makeup? Even?
Well, not as much as my straightness is connected to my drag, but and my severe masculinity. No, I love doing different shit, and I think queerness and drag and theater all go hand in hand.
Was it easy being queer in Westchester?
I didn't I kind of like, not that I looked down on them, but like I knew that I wasn't like one of them in like a good way, so it didn't really bug me that I didn't like fit in, because I knew that I didn't fit in for the right reasons. Like I was like really like not cocky about it, but like I guess in my head, like my brain was cocky about it to myself. And like once I, knew that I wanted to move to New York and like be a good little gay and go to FIT and stuff, I was like, well, I don't need to be like trying to forcing myself to fit in or make friends here because all those people suck to begin with.
You know, you like, read about or even see so many young people today grappling with bullying and really like taking it to heart. But one thing that's really interesting about you is like you sort of realized from an early age that those people that, I'm not saying you were bullied, but those people that were looking down on
Well,
you,
it's a good guess. I'm a fucking faggot. It happens.
you sort of always seemed like you had the wherewithal to know that they weren't really, that didn't matter, that was just not something that was going to, that you were going to let get you down. Did you always have that attitude about it? Did it ever at any time sort of affect you in any way negatively?
Yeah, there were plenty of times where, I would beat myself up about what people were saying about me or what they thought about me, but, I guess I kind of, like, toned that part or, like, zoned that part of my life out or whatever the phrase is. I don't really, like, not remember it, but, like, I don't really think about it or, like, pay it any never mind anymore, so therefore I don't really remember it that well, but I also don't think it was ever, like, terrible. It was never great, but it was never like, like some of these horror stories you read of, these kids that are just relentlessly bullied and, they can't do anything about it. Like it was, I wasn't like completely stranded alone, or at least I didn't feel that way all the time. Sometimes I did. I don't know. Like teenagers are like crazy.
So can you walk me through what exactly you're doing right now in terms of the steps of your makeup?
I forgot to like do a little like boop, boop, boop on my nose, so I'm doing that now before I powder over it, but I'm just setting all my makeup with powder so I don't look like a shiny greasy pig when I'm on stage on a Tuesday afternoon.
And so when did you first start sitting in front of the mirror, buying makeup products and doing full-on looks and recording videos? When did that sort of part of the process begin?
You know how like some kids will like watch their mom like get into makeup and that was like their like dream, or like they would like steal their mom's blush or whatever. Like I don't think I really did that, but like my sister had makeup, and at some point, when I was like a tween, with like bad skin or whatever, I would like try to convince my mom to let me buy like some concealer or whatever so I wouldn't look like Mount Rushmore on my face. My parents are very open-minded and like very encouraging and whatnot, so they weren't like the type to, smash my eyeshadow palette if like I randomly came up with an eyeshadow palette someday,
I'm curious for your thoughts on this rise of male makeup artists and male beauty bloggers. They seem to be rather ubiquitous on sites like YouTube or on the internet in general today, and on platforms like Instagram. What do you sort of make about this rise of, like, we have James Charles as the cover boy, etc.
Right.
What do you sort of make of this current trend of sort of the mainstreaming of men in makeup?
Well, I think men in makeup should be judged just as harshly as females in makeup. I think they deserve just as many and just as few opportunities, and I think that there's nothing special about it, and if you're a man in makeup and it sucks, it sucks. So if you're a man who does makeup, like, fabulous, just, like, do it well. Please.
So when, again, and I sort of asked this already, but just going back, so when did you start to say, when did it go from you putting on makeup to you wanting to be a drag queen?
In high school, I would post online, these little makeup looks that I would do with, these Party City wigs turned backwards and teased all out so that it completely didn't look like trash, even though it was just a different version of trash. And I would take these pictures with my MacBook webcam, and I would post them online and, like, edit the pictures. I would, like, alter my eyebrows and, like, see what I wish that my makeup could look like. And then the next time that I would do my makeup, I would try to, try to make those adjustments. And through trial and error, I just started to learn how to better my face. And, even today, I'm still, like, switching up shapes and seeing what different techniques and all work for my facial structure and skin.
So when was Aquaria's sort of debut?
There was a show in Philadelphia right before I moved to New York for college, and I messaged the person running it, and I was like, hi, like, obviously You may or may not know that I'm like maybe not supposed to be here sometimes, most of the times, all the times. Um, but I was wondering if I could like sneak in and like do a number. And she said, sure. So I went out, did a number, everyone loved it. And yeah, I just, obviously I was like very young, but I kind of had a way of blending in with the, people who were not under 21.
So can you sort of walk me through the in-between of like, when did the drag evolve from just makeup into full-on looks, and when did performing become an element of that?
Well, I'd always been a fan of doing looks because for me, I'm like a very visual person. I love, all forms of art. And to me, telling a story with just an appearance is like very intriguing. I grew up on Drag Race. It came out, I guess, maybe when I was in 6th or 7th grade. And I remember watching the first season. I don't know how I came across it, but I just loved that all their looks had like a purpose, or like there was like something thought out about it.
So you were watching the girls on Drag Race, and that was sort of what made you want to sort of acquire to performance?
Yeah, like I would just see like the Drag Race girls and like other drag queens on the internet and club kids and stuff, and there would always be like some sort of concept to the look. So I just love always keeping with that idea of telling some sort of story with whatever I'm wearing for the night.
So talk to me about sort of the work of moving here. How did you first land in New York?
So leaving Westchester, I was planning on going to the Fashion Institute of Technology for women's wear design, because why not? Like, I love fashion, I love design, and that's something that when I was, a senior in high school, I really saw myself being able to pursue for the rest of my life, and that would have been great and all. So I did that for a year. My freshman year went great. I was, very smart, doing well.
Had you been immersed in nightlife during the first 2 semesters at all, or was that sort of your first foray?
No, I'd like done some like pickup gigs and whatnot when I was still a freshman.
Was it natural for you right away? Because I imagine at 18 or 19 years old coming to the city and going out in nightlife, I remember when I did it, it was quite an experience in the beginning. Did that feel like a big adjustment from growing up in Westchester, or was it just sort of felt like where you were always meant to be?
I feel like I fit in New York pretty well, so it wasn't, I guess, that crazy, besides the fact that, it's going from 0 to a million. But, like, it was very natural for me because I knew that that's what I wanted. Westgate is definitely where I started really getting into nightlife. So I spent my summer here, went back to school as a sophomore the following September or whatever, and spent a week in class. No, I don't even think I spent a week in class. I think I spent maybe 3 days in class. And within those 3 days, I discovered that I was so over school. I don't come from a lot of money or whatever, so my thought process was, oh my God, I'm realizing that I don't want to stay in school. There's a short window of time that I can like get back my deposits for this semester and whatnot, and for like housing and whatever. So I need to make this decision as quickly as possible to save my parents and myself as much money, because this was all coming out of my pocket and my parents' pocket, which is shallow. So it was a Wednesday night. I remember calling my mom, and I was just like crying my ass off. But I was like, see, this it was more dramatic than coming out to me, because it was about money and about like shit like that. And I just remember telling her, I was like, I don't think this is working for me. There's something telling me that this is not the right vibe. My only like idea of a job was to, get serious and like pursue what I was already doing in drag. Because over the summer I found out that, it was possible to make some money doing this. Not a lot, but some. So I was like, Mom, I'll take care of it. I will find a place to stay. I'll pay my rent. I'll make sure I'm eating well. I will take care of this myself. And then pretty much from there, it was full speed ahead.
So how did she react when you told her that? I imagine that would be a very
I mean,
jarring
it's
reality.
stressful, but she knows that I wouldn't be making that call if it wasn't something that I like was really feeling. I would have, these club promoters or these, drag queens who had shows who would like really stick their neck out for me. Like I would be very nervous if I would be able to like actually like make it into my job that night. There's no better driving force to working hard than not being able to pay your bills and whatnot. I knew what I had to do to pay my bills was to work hard, and so I worked my ass off. I'm like a club queen, but also I can perform. So the nice part about that is I had a lot of different, ways that I could go about making money. If I'm performing, like when I first started, it would be, showing up to some other queen's gig and, doing 2 or 3 numbers throughout their set, mostly so that they can costume change. And I'd be paid, $50, $75, $100 or whatever, and make like $20 in tips. I don't know what these queens are talking about in New York City when they talk about making $1 million in tips, because I've never done a gig. Well, I mean, I've done a couple, but like I've not done too many gigs where I make like bank in tips. So I don't know where those gigs are, but hit me up. The performing was really fun for me because I would love to do numbers, and like I'm a big dancer, so like it was just like a great way for me to get out and be active.
So, I mean, obviously, what we do here is like more or less like 9 to 5. We have our sort of like benefit package that comes with our job. It's very regulated.
See, we do 9 to 5 too, 9 p.m. to 5 in the morning.
Yeah, so sort of talk to me about that. Like, what are some of the regularities amongst the job? Is there sort of like an ideal is in terms of, is it a regular gig that's an ideal? Are there certain high-paying gigs that are the ideal? What do you sort of look at as the gold standard?
Consistency in work is great. I don't want to not be working today because that means I'm not getting paid for today and I'm just doing nothing, which is not productive to life or paying rent. Drag queens were just like you. We are scrounging by just to make rent. The most ideal gigs are the ones that you get paid the most money for, I suppose.
And that doesn't always correlate to them being the most fun, correct?
I mean, no. Do the gigs you get paid the most money for excite you the most? I'm not here for shenanigans, and I'm not here to give people shenanigans.
I know every queen sort of views the drag part of them as differently. So, like, how do you see Aquaria in relationship to who you are outside of her?
I mean, out of drag, I'm very, like, chill and, like, calm and whatnot. But, like, obviously that's not very entertaining in drag. Like, we see lots of chill and calm drag queens be fucking boring, and, like, who wants to see that? I'm, like, very about, the theater and the show and the fun. So, you always got to turn it on.
I'm curious about coming home at the end of the night. Do you always take Aquaria off? Is it like, how does that work?
Yeah, I like to take care of my skin, so ideally I love to wash my makeup off. Like after a long night of like being in heels and like a wig and like earrings and like being tucked and with a corset on, and also like hopefully drunk, because that just makes getting out of drag so much easier. The last thing you want to do is be in it at all. So like I'm over there in the cab just like ripping things off, like trying to throw stuff in my bag as quickly as possible so that when I get home it's like seamless, get in bed, do a little, fall asleep.
What's the most basic question that people ask you with regard to tucking?
I'm trying to think of something not basic because it's pretty much like, where does it go? And I'm like, where do you want it to go?
Is it as painful as people imagine it to be, would you say?
No, I mean, it's like, it's discomfortable or like uncomfortable. There is discomfort.
Is there a point in the process where you feel like, okay, you're finally Aquaria? So is that whether it be like the tucking or when the wig comes on, but is there a point when you feel the full transition take effect?
I mean, once I'm like ready to walk out the door, I have like my bag packed, I have like car called or like whatever, like that's when I feel Aquaria. It's like when I'm ready to walk into work. But I feel like that's just like when I feel ready. Not necessarily Aquaria. Like I'm always Aquaria. I'm just not always ready in Aquaria, right? Like,
Yeah, no, I like
okay, like you wake up in the morning, but you're not about to walk into Mike.com just like rolling out of bed. So that's how I kind of feel. I feel like Aquaria rolled out of bed, but then I'm like Aquaria who's like ready for work.
that. So, I mean, I know a lot of queens that I know sort of have like their personal and then they have the queen. Were you always going with Aquaria and then it sort of just became, and then, or you mentioned in the beginning that you just started putting the looks on your own Instagram account.
Yeah.
And then when did that sort of become Aquaria, or how did that sort
Um,
of come to be?
I guess kind of after I moved to New York and made a tiny name for myself. Once I started making a business out of Aquaria, I decided to make keep my social media business related as well and professional.
So you say once I started making a name for myself, did you have a moment when, I mean, I feel like it happened for you really fast. I've known who you are for a very long time now. I obviously used to go to Westgate, but did you have a moment when you started to realize that Aquaria was catching on in the New York City nightlife scene? And for people that don't know, this is not an easy scene to sort of permeate.
I knew what I wanted and I went out and got it. I had my goals and I can't book all these gigs if no one knows who I am, and I can't explain why I should be working somewhere to a promoter or a show producer or something if there's nothing to like back that up. So I'm a very friendly person. I love to meet people. I have lots of fabulous friends and fabulous connections and whatnot, and just like through them and their friends and friends of friends and through the internet, I just like became better known by people as someone who is a superstar and thinks that they're a superstar and wants to be a superstar. You can if no one knows who you are. I do all these different looks, so why shouldn't I like share them with the world? If only XYZ Club gets to see it tonight, why shouldn't everyone all over the place get to see it? So I just like to put out nice clean content for people to enjoy my drag who can enjoy it here.
What are some of the exciting or new aspects of presenting your drag on Instagram? I'm sure your DMs, for instance, are something that people can reach out to you, and also you get to see comments, which I think like is a newer thing for drag queens. But what are some of the unique things about having a persona on Instagram as a queen?
It really helps you build like an international fan base for sure. Back before social media and whatnot, if you were doing drag in New York City and you were fantastic and you're amazing, the only way that someone in Sao Paulo would know about you is if they came to New York and stumbled across you, or they had a friend of a friend of a friend who went to New York one time who told them about you. So now people in Sao Paulo can find out who Aquaria is, all while staying in bed.
Right. Have you done a lot of international gigs as Aquaria?
Some. I like to take things kind of slow. Not slow, but like I'm very young and I have like I would like to believe that I have a lot of my life ahead of me, or I hope to. So I'm not like trying to like overdo myself right now. But I've worked in London a couple times. I love London. I performed this past summer in Vienna for the Life Ball. I mean, I love traveling. I love meeting the kids, and it's great. I mean, this is my job. Why not go on a business trip?
Who are some of the queens that you really look at in terms of their expertise with regards to whether it be like managing their career on social or managing their gigs or booking gigs? Who are some of the queens you look to as sort of inspiration in that sense?
I mean, a very easy answer, but Bianca Del Rio has done just a unbeatable job at becoming a star. She is such a hard worker, does so much of it herself, and she pays her taxes, which is a very admirable trait. So definitely, like business-wise, I definitely look up to her in that sense, just because she's doing everything by herself and pocketing every last penny.
And are there other young queens that you see that are following similar paths to you?
I like know what I want and I know how to go out and get it and like make shit happen for myself. I'm sure some people can do that as well, but for me, I feel like I really want it. So if I really, really, really want it, then I really, really, really try to go get it.
Are there any challenges though that you face? I mean, it seems like from the moment
Waking
you
up.
arrived, sorry.
Waking up,
Fair.
it's always a
It
challenge.
seems like from the moment you've arrived, you really were able to like establish your career and sort of hit the ground running. Are there challenges that perhaps people don't see that have arisen as a result of this quick come up?
I mean, I was, 18 when I started going to the clubs, and you're supposed to be 21, so there was a huge problem for a couple of years. Besides that, I don't know, it's, in today's day and age, there's so much scrutiny on drag queens in particular, just for whatever reason. As public figures, a lot is asked of drag queens that are public figures nowadays, I think. And a lot of it is worth rising to the occasion of, and then a lot of it is like very eye-rolly and suffocating. Like, you wouldn't tell Van Gogh what to do, so shut the fuck up. If I'm an artist, like, let me be. You don't have to like me. Please do. I mean, feel free to. But if you don't like me, my life will go on, and so will yours, and you'll probably enjoy someone else.
Is it bizarre having a fan base and having people that sort of watch your every move and, as you're saying, have opinions about every little thing that you do?
Yeah, I mean, it's like, it is what it is. Like, I've always wanted to be, like, famous and whatever. But, you know, everything has its cost, just from, like, privacy to, you know, the freedoms you have as an artist. It all gets slightly compromised when more people are able to enjoy your art, but that just means you get to keep doing your art for longer. So it's always a double-edged sword. You can never win.
So for most people, we work and then we go out as a means of sort of decompressing from the work.
See, I don't even have to work. I just go out.
Exactly.
I'm sleeping when y'all are. See, the thing is, nightlife people just have to work at nightlife, but daylife people have to work in the day, and then they have to go out at night. So when do y'all sleep? Y'all don't know when we sleep, but we really don't know when you sleep.
So what do you do to decompress? Like, what's your version of our nightlife?
I smoke a lot of weed. Yeah, I smoke a lot of weed. That's like very my gig. We love being green queens here. Just like scroll online, watch movies, and just like get stoned as fuck because like, why not?
One thing I love about your Instagram is how referential you are. With so many of the
Name a couple other things you love.
So how do you choose who you want to replicate, and yeah, where do those ideas come from?
I mean, I'm like myself. I'm not like replicating anyone. I'm like Aquaria. Like, I like to explore my creativity, and I enjoy makeup artistry and whatnot. So, you know, there's like my show face, my performance face. But when I can have the liberties of switching things up, I love to.
How expensive is drag?
It's one of those things that you do because you love it. I mean, I still don't have like a lot of money or whatever, so a lot of my like garments and stuff I reuse for lots of different looks. I try to keep it to a concise wardrobe when I can.
How much do you feel like there is a community amongst the queens?
My drag family or whatnot is like more just like club kids and like club friends and whatnot. I don't really work with a lot of the drag queens in the city too frequently, so I don't have a lot of like drag queen friends. But I'm also friendly with all the drag queens because, like, why not? I don't have a bone to pick with anyone. But yeah, I mean, if I need something, I know that I can, like, call up a girl or two and see if we can, like, make something work. We all work it out. It's New York City. I mean, we're humans. If you're going to be hard to work with and not friendly and whatever, like, what are you doing?
I'm curious about dating. Obviously, you're 21 years old. What is dating like for you in the city, and does your identity as Aquaria make that easier or more challenging?
I don't really date. It's just like I've always been focused on my career and whatnot. So um, relationships and whatever have always been beyond secondary to my life experience. But I'm trying to be like more open minded and open to, meeting people. I'm like very shy, I guess. I sometimes I just like try not to meet people on purpose just because it's like I feel like I need to like take care of myself first before I can like take care of someone else. Yeah, I'm starting to like try to get in a mindset where I'm not so like bugged by that, and like where I can like learn to let someone else into my life. But stay tuned for part 2, pretty much.
Is it fun having people obsess over you, and does that make it challenging with the dating, wanting
Um,
them to, because I'm sure people have a sense of you before they meet you, right?
right.
Um,
Yeah, I mean, as a public figure or whatever, everyone that I'm meeting already knows me before I know them for the most part. I can feel lonely sometimes. I have a lot of friends, but obviously a lot of us don't have the same, work schedule or whatever. So while I'm, um, you know, sleeping during the day, they're all hanging out and having fun. So I kind of get lost from the friend group just because I have to go to sleep and they're all awake. But yeah, I guess you can feel lonely. I feel lonely plenty, for sure.
do you ever wonder like what it would have been like had you stayed in school and had you pursued fashion design? Is that ever something that you look back and wonder what life would have been like?
No, I mean, it's definitely not something I would ever have been truly happy with. And for me, I'm all about making other people happy as well. And that, I didn't brush that away well enough. Oops. Um, and I like to think my best talent is, the work that I do in drag. This is all look a little bit crunchy. Gonna use the blur filter real quick. Boop boop. I like to think that I make people happy with my drag. So if I was, sitting behind a sewing machine or drawing little anorexic paper dolls, like that's not the best use of my ability. And, say it was like Judgment Day and, I'm standing in front of my creator. I don't want to be like, yeah, I was just like sewing a lot. And then he'll be like, girl, why don't you go to the party and turn it, So it's very that vibe. Like, I feel very content with where I am.
Where do you want to be in 5 years? And I ask that question because in 5 years, you're still going to be very young, and you're very young now. Do you have certain goals or accomplishments that you hope to seek out in the next 5 years?
Yeah, I mean, I just want to continue doing what I'm doing. I want to really try to branch out and, pursue different avenues with my drag. I want to try to experiment with different forms of entertainment that I can do, supplementary to my drag. And I just want to further really hone in on like what the type of art I want to be putting out to the world is, and just continue to like enjoy myself and convince other people to enjoy me as well.
Do you find that like the current political or social climate that we're living in makes people crave the entertainment of drag more? Do you think it makes it easier or harder for people to go out and have a good time, or do you think that has no effect on it at all?
I mean, people certainly crave drag more, but as drag is trickling into the mainstream, that is just how that goes. And I'm sure as like a reactionary form of art to how the world is right now, I'm sure it's very cathartic to enjoy something that's so like lighthearted and whatnot. So sure.
What are you looking forward to about 2018?
For me, I'm just like, I love doing what I do, and I love the ability to continue doing what I do. So in 2018, I hope I continue to keep slaying and keep turning it out.
Fair. You mentioned several times sort of like the mainstreaming of drag. It's a conversation that we've had at Mike with a lot of the queens that we come in, and sort of about whether or not that's a good thing or a bad thing or where they situate it. Obviously, drag in its early days was sort of a subversive art form. Do you, when you look at this sort of, as you've identified, when you look at this mainstreaming of drag, do you think that drag has anything to lose in going mainstream?
I mean, not necessarily. No, I think the people who are worried about drag becoming mainstream are not selfish, but it's. I feel like it's almost kind of a selfish thing to think that you're the only one who can enjoy something. You know, you're the only one who can enjoy drag, as it is inevitably going more towards a mainstream direction. I think that's also like really cheesy and corny as well, because if you like something and like people are beginning to also like it as well, why should they not be able to like it? Also, hello, helps me pay my bills easier, so, you know, drag goes more mainstream, I pay my bills easier. You know, the next queen pays her bills easier. Drag goes more mainstream. Drag queens don't have to worry about getting harassed or, you know, whatnot on the subway or being, like being subject to putting up with hate walking around town. Like, drag going mainstream is not a bad thing.
So I'm sure like you've grown and changed over the last 3 years, just as like human beings are wont to do. Would you say
We have a way with that.
Yeah. Would you say Aquaria has grown up at all? Has she evolved? And I don't just mean aesthetically, even your sense.
Woo! That's so cute. Oh, meanwhile I've got like fucking tar all over my teeth. That's not cute. What's up?
In what ways has Aquaria sort of grown up over the last 3 years?
I've certainly grown up plenty over the past couple of years, but I feel like I've always had a bit of like, maturity to me. And now I'm to the point where I think I know I'm 21, so I can't like reclaim my youth, but I feel like I'm like reclaiming my youth and regaining my youth. And not just like, oh, this is like my like coming out party. I just feel like I'm like finally like letting like not everything hang out, but like I'm letting myself have fun. I'm not being so opposed to like talking to boys or like shit like that. I feel like this is just like my time to like enjoy myself and have fun, and I'm realizing that I'd possibly not been taking life too seriously, but like really been working really hard, and I feel like I'm to a point now where I'm allowed to not sit back and have fun, but like just relax and enjoy the fact that I'm not like scrounging to get a booking every day, and like I have a good group of friends and stuff. Like there's things that I don't need to worry about right this second, and I need to appreciate that and have fun with it.
Has it sunk in fully yet that you are a success?
I think I've definitely been successful with my goal, like my initial goals at starting doing drag. I start to realize it more and more that I have become successful at what I am doing. But to me, success isn't measured by the number of Instagram followers or the amount of international gigs. For me, success is just like being happy and like in a place where I'm not struggling to pay rent or like worrying as much. Like lack of worry equals success for me. So the fact that I don't have to like freak out all the time and that I can enjoy life without so many like roadblocks is like success. I feel successful for that.
What does your mom make of all of this?
My mom loves it. She's always been, my number one fan, and she still is to this day. She loves, you know, all like reading all the comments online, and she loves, getting on all the fans' accounts and thanking them for their fan art and whatever for me. And it's a little insane, but I'm like, okay, thank you. But yeah, she's very appreciative to my fans. And yeah, she's just very proud of me for doing what I did and doing it. And my dad is very much the same, except he holds off from commenting on random fans' accounts. Thank goodness. But yeah, they're both super proud of me and like couldn't be any more happy. Whatever I did in life, they were happy as long as I did it well, and I seem to be doing, I think we can all agree, a decent job. The reception from them is awesome. I know, obviously, I'm very lucky and very privileged to have that type of, support and encouragement and reception from my family. If I'm gonna get that type of good reception, I'm gonna keep trying to do my best to, keep making them proud, and I'm very, very grateful that I can do that.